Hello and welcome to day 10 of Advent calendar full of amazing Christmas story for you to listen. And speaking of listen, I really want you to listen to the full story. Um, and if you listened to the story and liked it, please subscribe to my channel and comment down below what you like about my stories, whether you see my uh, Christmas stories or the usual stories. Um, yeah, um, as usual, until next time, stay safe. Peace.
It was Christmas Eve in the little town of Hollybrook, where the streets were blanketed in soft snow and the smell of pine trees filled the air. Inside Mrs. Thistle's bookshop, the children gathered as they did every year, eager for her famous Christmas Eve story. The fire crackled warmly, and the glow from the Christmas tree reflected off the walls, casting a magical light over the room. Mrs. Thistle, the kind-hearted librarian, walked in slowly, carrying an old book wrapped in red ribbon. This year, the children were particularly excited. Rumor had it that this was the most special story of all. "Gather close, my dear ones," she said, settling into her big armchair. The children moved in, their eyes wide and filled with wonder. "I have something truly unique for you this year. It's a story that has been with me for many, many years. It's called The Story of Christmas, but unlike other stories, this one is never finished." The children exchanged curious looks. Little Clara, always the most inquisitive, raised her hand. "Why is it never finished, Mrs. Thistle?" Mrs. Thistle's eyes twinkled as she smiled down at Clara. "Because this story isn't just about one Christmas, or one person. It's about every Christmas. It's about all the people, across all the places and all the times, who have ever celebrated Christmas and who will celebrate it in the future. It grows with each new Christmas, and that's why it can never truly be finished." The children gasped in awe. They had never heard of a story like this before. Mrs. Thistle opened the book and began to read. "Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between snowy mountains, there lived a boy named Oliver. Every year, his family celebrated Christmas in their little cottage, decorating the tree with handmade ornaments and singing carols by the fire. But this year, Oliver had a wish that was much bigger than any he'd made before. "I wish," he whispered one cold night, "that I could know how Christmas is celebrated all over the world. I want to know everyone's Christmas story." That very night, Oliver was visited by a mysterious figure, an old man in silver robes with a long, white beard. He introduced himself as the keeper of Christmas stories. "You've made a wish that only the bravest hearts can make," the keeper said. "The story of Christmas isn't just one tale. It is the story of every Christmas ever celebrated by people like you, by those far across the sea, and even by those yet to come." The keeper held out his hand, and when Oliver took it, the forest around them began to change. Suddenly, Oliver found himself in another land far away, where the sun shone warm and the people celebrated Christmas with songs on the beach. Then, in a blink, he was whisked to a bustling city where twinkling lights adorned tall buildings, and people exchanged gifts in the middle of snowy streets. From one place to another, he traveled, each stop revealing a different Christmas, a new tradition, a fresh way of celebrating. He saw families coming together, communities sharing love, children filled with wonder, and the joy of giving spreading like warmth in the coldest winters. In some places, they celebrated with candles and quiet prayers; in others, with feasts, music, and laughter that echoed through the night. But no matter where he went, Oliver noticed something. Though the ways of celebrating were different, the spirit was always the same: love, hope, and kindness. The keeper of Christmas stories finally brought Oliver to a shimmering tree, the most beautiful he had ever seen. Its branches stretched out, with every ornament telling a new story of families, of traditions, of Christmases long ago and those yet to come. This tree holds all the Christmas stories, the keeper explained. But there's always room for more. Every year, the tree grows. Each new Christmas brings new stories, and the tale of Christmas itself grows bigger and brighter. At this point, Mrs. Thistle paused and looked at the children. And that, my dear ones, is why the story never ends. It grows with every Christmas that passes, with every new family that celebrates it, with every new memory made. The children were mesmerized, imagining all the places Oliver must have seen, all the stories he learned. Little Clara, still curious, asked, "But Mrs. Thistle, what about the future Christmases? How do they fit into the story?" Mrs. Thistle smiled warmly. "Ah, Clara, that's the true magic of this tale. The story of Christmas isn't just about the past or the present, it's also about the future. Every Christmas you celebrate, every act of kindness, every moment of joy and love that you share, becomes part of this ever-growing story. That's why it can never be finished, because as long as there are people who celebrate Christmas, there will always be more to add." The children smiled, realizing they were part of something bigger than they ever imagined. Their own Christmas stories, the joy they shared with their families, the love they felt each moment was woven into the great, never-ending story of Christmas. As the fire crackled and the snow continued to fall outside, Mrs. Thistle closed the book with a soft thud. "And now, my dear ones, it's time for you to go home and make your own Christmas story, because you, too, are part of the tale." The children left the shop with a new sense of wonder. They understood now that Christmas wasn't just a day, it was a story that lived in the hearts of people everywhere, in every time and place. And as long as there were people to celebrate it, the story of Christmas would continue to grow, forever unfinished, forever magical. And so, the story of Christmas went on, with each new celebration adding a chapter to the grand, beautiful tale that would never, ever end.